Have you ever felt like the divine presence is somewhere out there, separated from your daily life by an unbridgeable chasm? As if your prayers are messages sent into an empty void with no certainty they're even being received? What if I told you that the greatest spiritual misunderstanding of our time isn't about what the I Am presence wants from you, but about where this divine presence actually is? This fundamental misconception has kept countless sincere seekers trapped in a cycle of spiritual frustration, constantly reaching outward for what has always been present within. Has this ever happened to you? You face a crisis, perhaps a health scare, financial trouble, or relationship conflict, and immediately begin praying intensely, begging for divine intervention, yet feeling that spiritual help remains frustratingly out of reach. You're not alone. This experience is nearly universal because we've been taught to look in the wrong direction entirely. The revolutionary understanding I'm about to share with you today transforms not just your spiritual practice, but every aspect of your daily life. The I Am presence, that divine reality we've been seeking, is not a distant realm waiting for us after death. It's not a reward for good behavior or spiritual achievement. It is, as Joel Goldsmith profoundly taught, a state of consciousness that exists within you at this very moment. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Stay with me until the end of this video, because what you're about to discover might fundamentally change your entire relationship with prayer, meditation, and spiritual living. When you truly grasp that the divine presence isn't something you need to reach for, but rather recognize as the very essence of your being, everything transforms. Your prayers shift from desperate pleading to joyful acknowledgement. Your meditation becomes not a technique to achieve something, but a gentle recognition of what already is. Imagine approaching each day not as a separate entity struggling through life alone, but as a living expression of divine consciousness. Picture facing challenges not with fear and anxiety, but with an unshakable awareness of the perfect spiritual reality that exists beyond material appearances. This isn't positive thinking or wishful spirituality. It's practical mysticism that produces tangible transformation in your health, finances, relationships, and inner peace. The practice I'll be sharing today has changed countless lives across the world, not through magical thinking, but through a profound shift in spiritual understanding. What would your life look like if you stopped begging an external deity to change your circumstances and instead awakened to the I Am reality that already exists within you, perfect and complete? How would your experience transform if you recognize that in this inner presence there is no lack, no disease, no separation from good? In the next few minutes, I'll walk you through 5 deep shifts that allow the I Am to flow through you in everyday situations. These 5 deep shifts aren't abstract concepts, but tangible practices you can begin implementing today, even with whatever level of spiritual understanding you currently possess. The first transformation begins with your concept of prayer itself. Think about it. How often have we approached prayer as if we're sending messages to a distant receiver, hoping they'll be picked up and answered? It's like repeatedly dialing a number and waiting anxiously for someone to pick up on the other end. The hidden truth that creates immediate transformation is recognizing that prayer isn't about reaching out to something separate from you. It's about tuning into the frequency of what's already present within you. It's like realizing you've been carrying a phone with you the whole time, and all you needed to do was look at the screen. When this mindset shift occurs, your entire relationship with prayer transforms. No more desperate pleading or bargaining with an external force. Instead, prayer becomes a joyful acknowledgement of the I Am presence that already exists within you, perfect and complete. It's a recognition rather than a request, an alignment rather than an appeal. If these teachings on inner clarity resonate with you, subscribe to join our community of spiritual seekers who are practicing this recognition in their daily lives. Each new video explores practical ways to experience the divine presence within. Behind the scenes of this journey lies what I call practical mysticism. This isn't about floating away on clouds of spiritual theory. It's about bringing profound spiritual understanding directly into your everyday decisions and experiences. The revelation that changes everything is that mysticism, when properly understood, is intensely practical. I've witnessed remarkable transformations when people apply this understanding to real challenges. A woman facing chronic illness discovered that recognizing the I Am presence within didn't magically eliminate her symptoms overnight, but it did transform her relationship with the illness completely. Rather than seeing herself as a victim battling disease, she experienced herself as spiritual consciousness, expressing through a temporary human experience. This shift created space for genuine healing beyond what her doctors had thought possible. The impact extends to every area of life. Financial challenges take on new meaning when approached from this consciousness. Rather than seeing money problems as evidence of your separation from good, you recognize that the source of all supply already exists within your consciousness. From this place of recognition, creative solutions and unexpected opportunities naturally emerge. Relationships transform when you interact with others from I Am awareness, rather than ego needs and defenses. You begin seeing beyond personality conflicts to the divine essence present in everyone, even those who challenge you most. This doesn't mean ignoring harmful behavior, but it does mean responding from wisdom rather than reaction. Now, I want to go even deeper into how this understanding works in daily practice. The journey begins with what Joel Goldsmith called the practice of the presence. Developing a continuous awareness of this inner reality that exists within you. If you've ever experienced even a brief moment of deep inner knowing that transcended your normal thinking, write in the comments, "I've glimpsed the I Am within." This practice of the presence isn't something complex or esoteric. It begins with simple recognition throughout your day. When you wake each morning before your feet even touch the floor, pause for just a moment and silently acknowledge, the I Am presence is within me right now. This divine consciousness is my true nature. This tiny decision creates ripples of transformation that extend far beyond that moment. It establishes a mindset that shapes how you'll respond to everything the day brings. The behind-the-scenes revelation that most spiritual seekers miss is that consistency matters more than intensity. Many of us have experienced those moments of inspiration where we meditate for hours, read spiritual texts voraciously, or attend transformative workshops. While these experiences can be valuable, they often fade as quickly as they arrive. The hidden truth is that a brief recognition practiced regularly has more impact than occasional hours of desperate spiritual effort. Throughout your day, especially during challenging moments, take even 30 seconds to return to this inner recognition. When your boss criticizes your work, when traffic makes you late, when unexpected bills arrive, these are precisely the moments when this practice reveals its power. Instead of reacting immediately from fear, frustration, or lack, pause and recognize the truth that exists beyond material appearances and circumstances. The journey of transformation unfolds through these small, consistent moments of recognition rather than through dramatic spiritual experiences. Think about learning any new skill, playing an instrument, mastering a sport, or learning a language. Progress doesn't come through occasional intense practice sessions, but through regular, consistent engagement. The same principle applies to spiritual awareness. You'll begin noticing subtle shifts at first, a deeper peace in stressful situations, unexpected solutions to persistent problems, a growing sense of divine guidance in daily decisions. These are signs that you're beginning to live from I am consciousness rather than purely from material awareness. The revelations unfold gradually, but their cumulative effect transforms your entire experience of life. The mindset shift that accelerates this process is releasing the expectation of immediate dramatic results. Our culture has conditioned us to expect instant transformation in everything from weight loss to career advancement. We bring this same impatience to spiritual practice. The decision to value consistent recognition over spiritual intensity creates space for genuine transformation that lasts rather than fleeting experiences that fade. This practice becomes especially powerful when applied to specific challenges we all face. Consider health issues, an area where fear can instantly overwhelm our spiritual awareness. When physical symptoms appear, our conditioned response is panic, followed by exclusively seeking material solutions. If you've ever experienced the immediate shift from confidence to concern when a symptom appears, write in the comments, "I'm ready to practice presence instead of panic." Please understand, this isn't about rejecting medical wisdom or practical care. The journey I'm describing integrates both spiritual understanding and appropriate action. When facing health challenges, first turn within to recognize the spiritual truth. In the I am presence within you, there is only wholeness, only divine perfection. This recognition doesn't replace medical care, but opens a channel for healing power that transcends material limitations completely. From this place of spiritual awareness, you can then make decisions about treatment with clarity rather than fear. Think about someone with chronic pain who's been told they'll simply have to live with their condition. From material consciousness alone, this prognosis feels like a prison sentence. But from I am consciousness, they recognize that physical appearance isn't the final reality. Their spiritual essence remains whole regardless of bodily conditions. This recognition creates space for healing that might otherwise be blocked by fear and resignation. The breakthrough insight is that this approach creates a partnership between spiritual understanding and practical wisdom. You don't ignore symptoms or avoid doctors. You simply bring a different consciousness to the situation. You address physical needs while maintaining awareness of spiritual wholeness. This dual approach provides both material and spiritual resources for healing and well-being. As the yin, the same profound shift in consciousness transforms our relationship with money and material supply. When confronting financial challenges, most people immediately focus on external actions, working harder, cutting expenses, or frantically searching for new income sources. While practical steps matter, the mindset behind those actions determines their effectiveness. The hidden truth is returning to the consciousness of the inner I am, where divine supply is infinite and eternally flowing. Let me share something behind the scenes of financial transformation. A businessman I worked with faced complete financial ruin after his partner embezzled company funds. Creditors were demanding payment, legal troubles multiplied daily, and bankruptcy seemed inevitable. Rather than focusing solely on these external circumstances, he began practicing I am consciousness each morning and throughout his day. At first, nothing external changed. Bills still arrived, creditors still called. But something shifted internally. The paralyzing fear that had blocked creative solutions began dissolving. From this awareness, right action emerged naturally. He found himself making different decisions, having conversations he would have avoided before, exploring options that fear would have previously ruled out. Within weeks, opportunities appeared that he couldn't have engineered through external manipulation. A former client offered a substantial new contract. An unexpected settlement came through. A strategic partnership materialized. These weren't random coincidences, but consciousness demonstrating its own abundance. The pathway to complete financial recovery opened up not through force or struggle, but through spiritual recognition and understanding. If you've ever witnessed unexpected solutions emerge after letting go of financial fear, write in the comments. I've experienced abundance beyond my planning. This journey of transformation requires something many modern spiritual seekers resist: patience. In our world of instant results, same-day delivery, and on-demand everything, we expect immediate spiritual breakthroughs. The hidden truth is that this transformation develops gradually over weeks and months of practice. You won't master this understanding overnight, and that's perfectly natural. Joel Goldsmith himself spent years developing this consciousness through meditation, study, and practical application. What matters is that you begin today with whatever level of understanding you currently possess. The consistency of your practice matters far more than its initial perfection. Some days you'll maintain I am consciousness beautifully. Other days you'll forget completely and spend hours in anxiety before remembering the divine presence within. This inconsistency isn't evidence of failure, but the normal rhythm of spiritual development. Consider how a child learns to walk. There are many falls for each successful step at first, yet with persistence, walking eventually becomes effortless. The same principle applies to spiritual awareness. Each time you return to I am consciousness after forgetting, you're strengthening that awareness. Subscribe now to deepen your understanding of the I am presence and continue this journey of spiritual discovery together. More transformative insights await you in our growing library of content. The path isn't linear. It includes plateaus and even apparent setbacks, but the overall trajectory moves toward increasing spiritual recognition. The profound impact comes in recognizing that you aren't creating this divine presence through positive thinking or willpower. You're simply recognizing what has always existed within you, waiting for your awareness. This revelation transforms spiritual practice from effortful self-improvement to joyful discovery of your true nature. One of the most beautiful aspects of this journey is learning to recognize the subtle transformations that signal your growing awareness. While we often look for dramatic breakthroughs or miraculous interventions, the true revelations come in quieter moments. As you practice returning to I am consciousness, notice the subtle shifts. First, a deeper peace in situations that would have previously triggered stress, unexpected solutions appearing for persistent problems, a growing sense of divine guidance in daily decisions. These might seem like small changes, but they represent a fundamental shift in perspective. You're beginning to live from divine consciousness rather than purely from material awareness. It's like learning to see with new eyes. The world hasn't changed, but your perception of it has transformed completely. Where you once saw only problems, you now recognize opportunities. Where you once felt separation from good, you now experience divine presence. A woman in our community described this shift beautifully. After practicing I am consciousness for several months, she realized one day that her constant anxiety about the future had been replaced by a quiet confidence. Not because her external circumstances were more secure, they weren't, but because her awareness of the inner presence had become more consistent. If you've noticed even small shifts in how you respond to challenges after moments of inner recognition, write in the comments. I'm seeing subtle transformations. The secret pathway to experiencing these subtle shifts is persistence through the initial challenges. This is where many spiritual seekers stumble. They begin this practice with enthusiasm, expecting immediate dramatic results. When those instant miracles don't materialize, they conclude the approach doesn't work and abandon it prematurely. The critical insight is understanding that spiritual development follows natural laws just as physical growth does. Think about planting a garden. When you place seeds in soil, nothing visible happens immediately. For days or even weeks, you see no evidence of growth. If you grew impatient and dug up the seeds to check on them, you'd interrupt the very process you're trying to foster. Spiritual practice works similarly. The initial work happens beneath the surface of your awareness, creating a foundation for visible transformation that appears in divine timing. Those who persist through this initial phase discover something far more valuable than instant gratification, an inner resource that sustains them through everything life brings. They develop a spiritual resilience that isn't dependent on circumstances being perfect. They find an unshakable peace that remains steady even when external conditions fluctuate wildly. A businessman shared with me that after 6 months of consistent practice, he faced a crisis that would have previously sent him into panic and despair. Instead, he found himself responding from I am consciousness automatically, without the effort it had required earlier in his journey. The practice that had once seemed difficult had become his natural state. This represents the maturation of spiritual awareness. What begins as conscious effort gradually becomes spontaneous expression. The journey of transformation extends beyond personal experience to revolutionize our relationships with others. Perhaps the most profound shift occurs in how we interact with the people who challenge us most. Think about that co-worker who constantly criticizes, the family member who triggers old wounds, or the stranger who cuts you off in traffic. Our instinctive reaction is defensiveness, judgment, or withdrawal. But I am consciousness offers an entirely different pathway. The breakthrough insight is recognizing that the divine presence exists within them too, perfect even when obscured by stress, fear, or fatigue. Their behavior may not reflect this spiritual reality, but that doesn't diminish its truth. This recognition isn't about excusing harmful actions, but about seeing beyond the surface to the deeper reality. Imagine returning home after a challenging day to find your partner irritable and distant. From material consciousness, you'd likely react defensively or withdraw emotionally. But from I am consciousness, you recognize that they're dealing with their own challenges, that the divine presence within them remains perfect even when obscured. This recognition allows you to respond with compassion rather than escalating the tension. If you've ever experienced that moment of seeing beyond someone's difficult behavior to their essential nature, write in the comments, "I've glimpsed the light in others." I witnessed this transformation in a corporate environment where 2 executives had been locked in conflict for months. After one began practicing I am consciousness, the entire dynamic shifted. Rather than reacting to perceived attacks, she began seeing her colleague through spiritual eyes, recognizing the pressure he was under and the divine intelligence, operating even through his challenging personality. Without a single conversation about their conflict, the relationship transformed as her perception shifted. The revelation many spiritual seekers miss is that living from I am consciousness doesn't mean escaping daily challenges, but meeting them from a spiritual foundation. This isn't about floating above human experience in some mystical bubble. It's about engaging fully with life's complexities while maintaining awareness of the spiritual dimension behind all appearances. The authentic journey includes both successes and setbacks. The decision to practice I am consciousness transforms ordinary moments into opportunities for spiritual recognition. This is where the true power of the practice reveals itself, not in dramatic spiritual experiences, but in the quiet transformation of everyday living. Washing dishes becomes a meditation on divine presence flowing through your hands. Traffic delays offer space for inner communion, rather than frustration. Challenging conversations become invitations to see beyond appearances to the spiritual reality within others. Life itself becomes your spiritual practice. Behind the scenes of spiritual growth, each return to I am consciousness after forgetting builds neural pathways that make this awareness increasingly natural. What initially requires conscious effort gradually becomes your default perspective. The businessman who once struggled to maintain spiritual awareness for even minutes eventually finds it becoming his natural state throughout the day. Over months of dedicated practice, something truly profound begins to shift in your experience. The I am consciousness that once required deliberate effort becomes increasingly natural, like learning a language that eventually allows you to think in it rather than mentally translating. You'll notice that you automatically return to spiritual truth more quickly after being momentarily pulled into material fear or concern. This isn't something you force. It's the natural evolution of consistent spiritual recognition. Think of it as building momentum on a journey. Those initial steps require the most energy, but as you continue forward, you develop a rhythm that carries you naturally. A friend described this experience beautifully, saying that after a year of practice, she realized that her first thought in challenging situations had shifted from panic to peace. Not because she was trying to be spiritual, but because I am consciousness had become her default perspective. The evidence of this transformation appears in practical ways throughout your life. Solutions to problems appear more readily because you're accessing the infinite intelligence of the I am within, rather than relying solely on limited personal thinking. Peace becomes more consistent because it's anchored in spiritual reality rather than fluctuating circumstances. If you've noticed your first response to life's challenges gradually shifting from reaction to recognition, write in the comments, "My default state is changing." Relationships deepen because you're interacting from authentic spiritual awareness rather than ego needs and defenses. The hidden revelation that transforms this journey is letting go of expectations for immediate dramatic results. Our culture conditions us to expect instant transformation, the spiritual equivalent of before and after photos on a weight loss program. But consciousness doesn't transform that way. The changes unfold organically, often so subtly that you don't notice them happening in real time. Now, I want to go even deeper into what may be the most significant breakthrough on this journey. As I am consciousness matures through consistent practice, you discover something precious beyond measure, an unshakable peace that doesn't depend on circumstances being perfect. This isn't positive thinking or emotional bypass. It's authentic spiritual awareness that remains steady through life's inevitable fluctuations. This peace becomes your foundation through every challenge, loss, and disappointment. When financial setbacks occur, you still take practical action, but without the paralysis of fear. When relationships face difficulties, you address them directly, but without the drama of emotional reactivity. When health concerns arise, you seek appropriate care, but without being consumed by worry about outcomes. A woman who had practiced I am consciousness for several years faced the unexpected loss of a spouse. Friends were amazed at her response. Not an absence of grief, but a profound peace that coexisted with natural sorrow. She described knowing beyond intellectual understanding that the divine presence within had proven itself faithful through the darkest experience of her life. This wasn't resignation or spiritual bypassing, but direct experience of spiritual reality transcending even death itself. This represents the maturation of Spiritual understanding moving from conceptual knowledge to lived reality. You know from direct experience that spiritual consciousness is the only reliable foundation because you've tested it through real-life challenges. Material conditions fluctuate constantly, but inner truth remains eternally steady. This doesn't make you immune to human emotion, but provides a deeper context for those emotions, like waves on the surface of an ocean that remains undisturbed in its depths. The pathway to this transformation requires something that most spiritual seekers are unwilling to give: consistent commitment, regardless of immediate results. Let's be honest about what this path truly requires. The transformation we're discussing demands a level of commitment that most are unwilling to make. This isn't a weekend workshop or a 21-day challenge that produces instant enlightenment. It requires daily practice, even when you feel absolutely no immediate results, faith in spiritual truth when material appearances seem to contradict it completely, and patience through the sometimes painfully gradual development process. The most liberating truth of all is that you can begin right now exactly where you are with whatever understanding you currently possess. You don't need to master complex theology or achieve perfect meditation first. You don't need special spiritual credentials or decades of study. The I Am presence is within you right now. It has always been there. It will always be there. If you've experienced moments of peace that seem to come from a source deeper than your thinking mind, write in the comments, "I recognize the eternal within me." Your recognition doesn't create this divine presence, but reveals what already exists eternally. Simply start today, this moment, by recognizing as often as you remember, the I Am presence is within me now. Divine presence is my true nature. Spiritual perfection exists in consciousness, regardless of material appearances. As we draw this conversation to a close, I'm reminded of something profound that Joel Goldsmith often emphasized. Spiritual truth isn't meant to be held tightly as intellectual knowledge, but shared openly as lived experience. Your journey of recognizing the I Am within doesn't happen in isolation. It ripples outward and touches countless lives around you. If these teachings have resonated with something deep within you today, I'd love to hear about your own experiences in the comments below. Simply write, "The I Am within awakens," so I know you've journeyed with me to the end of this exploration. Your story might be exactly what another seeker needs to hear to begin their own practice of recognition. If you found value in this perspective on letting the I Am flow through you, consider gently tapping that like button, not for algorithms or metrics, but as a way of affirming that spiritual truth still matters in our distracted world. It's a small gesture that helps others discover these timeless principles. And if you're feeling called to continue this journey of spiritual discovery together, subscribe to join our growing community of seekers who are committed to recognizing the divine presence in everyday life. We're exploring these profound truths every week, translating mystical understanding into practical living. There's a video right here about practicing the presence throughout your day that builds beautifully on what we've discussed today. Click and continue with me over there as we explore how to maintain spiritual awareness through the specific challenges and opportunities of daily living. Until next time, remember, the I Am presence is within you right now, waiting only for your recognition.